Hello everyone and welcome to another YouTube machining channel. This is my first video on a brand new channel that I just started. Video number one. I've never made a YouTube video before. I've never filmed anything like this before. I've never done much machining before. So this is a brand new endeavor, brand new experience, brand new everything. My name is Raindeer. I'm from South Africa. I don't live in South Africa anymore. I got out while the getting was good. For those of you that know what that means, you know what that means. I live in a different country now. I've been out of South Africa for coming up almost 3 years now. Me and my wife moved. A lot of my family members moved. We are all here together in a new country where we settled down. So this is my little workshop. I do not have a lot of experience doing machining work. I do not have a lot of experience making videos. I do not have a lot of experience doing CAD and CAM drawings or anything like that. I do, however, have a lot of experience fabricating, doing welding, fabrication for the performance automotive industry. I had a business in South Africa along with a very good friend of mine that is now closed since I've moved out of the country. I have a lot of experience manufacturing performance parts for race cars, just performance upgrade parts for OEM cars, street cars. I don't even want to call it like a field of expertise because I don't consider myself an expert, but I consider myself proficient enough to have felt confident to charge people money to make things for them. Let me put it like that. So my field of interest mainly lies in cars. Volkswagen and Audi specifically is a group that I have a lot of experience with. I'll put up a couple of videos or a couple of photos over here of some of the work that I've done. A lot of turbo manifolds, full exhaust systems, turbo conversions, boost pipes, charge pipes. I build custom intercoolers, radiators, chassis work, suspension work, a lot of work on drift cars in particular, drift and drag cars. I like aluminium, stainless steel fabrication. That's really where my passion lies. I've done a lot of fuel management system fitment. I do tuning. I've been out of that game for quite a few years now. It's almost 3 years now that I have not welded anything, worked on a car. It's very difficult for me. It's something that I miss a lot. I don't know if I will ever go back to doing that type of work for clients, but I am, however, still doing that type of work for myself. I'm busy building a Volkswagen R32 motor that is getting de-stroked to a R30. That's a very well-known engine recipe. Building a de-stroked R32. They can make oodles of power up to anywhere from 1,000 to 1,300, 1,400 horsepower reliably. It's a very, very good engine, very strong engine if you understand them. I'm busy building one for myself. Inside this little workshop, that engine will be built. I'm very limited on workspace. This little room is 4 meters by 2 point something, very, very small. It is all that I have available to me, and I am just trying the best to make use of this little space. So the plan for this channel is machining, manual machining, a bit of CNC machining. Again, I do not have a lot of experience. This is a journey of discovery for me, growing and learning everything. I'll put a picture in. I've got a desktop Omeo, I can't even remember the full name. It's an Omeo CNC. I think it's the XL 2000 something. It's a pretty big machine. It's a Chinese machine that I bought straight out of China, and they delivered it to my front door. It's a desktop router, but I've done some aluminium work with it. I'll put a picture in. It's reasonably capable. It's got a lot of room for improvement. That will be a dedicated video on its own, is all the upgrades that I want to do to this machine. Mostly rigidity, but one of my biggest gripes that I have with it is on the Z-axis, the mounting blocks where it mounts onto the gantry, it does not have 4 linear guide rail bearing blocks. It only has 2. So granted, they are slightly longer blocks, but I do feel that that really compromises the rigidity of the Z-axis. That's a big upgrade that I want to do. I want to add 2 extra blocks to that. And I want to add 40 by 40 cast iron pillars to the back of the gantry to give it some weight. Cast iron is really good for machines, vibration absorption, rigidity. A few upgrades that I want to do there. This little machine is a 7045 desktop manual mill. I've had it for I think just over a year now. I've started some upgrades on this. I've got a Ditron 3-axis with the RPM readout on this, 0.005 of a millimeter resolution. That for me was a game changer. It really gives you accuracy and a lot of functionality with the PCD options and the drilling of holes at a predefined angles, predefined distances apart from each other. That's really nice. It's a very noisy gearbox on this. It's a cheap Chinese machine. The idea with this is to do full CNC conversion. So that will be a dedicated series on turning this desktop mill into a full CNC mill. I've already filled up the whole base of this with epoxy granite. Amazing upgrade. I can really highly recommend that to everyone. It's really heavy. I think this weighed 370 odd kilograms when I purchased it, and the epoxy granite I believe added between 40 and 45 kilograms just to the base. But the dampening effect from the epoxy granite is really amazing. The next mod for this will be upgrading the column to linear guide rail blocks. It's gonna get this HGH30s, the narrow block, not the flanged block. I do have some of the flanged blocks here, but I am going to use them on the base for the X and Y axis and not on the column. So the plan is to do a full conversion there. I already have the flanged carriages for the gantry X-axis for the mill, for the router upgrade. I just need to add this. I'll need to change the spacing on that Z-axis for how the carriage blocks are bolted onto it at the moment. That machine has NEMA 23, 24s on it. I'm not sure, it could be 23 or 24. I think it's 23s. It runs Mach 3. I've made a few parts on it. That really started me into enjoying the CNC aspect of it. The first little mill that I had is this little one behind me here. That's going to be a whole series on its own. I want to convert that little desktop mill. I think that whole thing probably weighs 70 or 80 kilograms. I want to convert that machine to a surface grinder with a stepper motor on the X-axis, Y-axis, the left to right axis, with a digital program controller that I have, so that when I surface grind parts, I can program the stroke that I want that bed to move, and I will just manually feed in or feed out the part as the left and right, the X-axis. I presume that's the X-axis. Not sure. Again, I have very little experience. I'm extremely ambitious in thinking that I could potentially do these things. I will try my best. For my past experience in terms of fabrication, I've done a couple of VR6 turbos. I love the VR6 foundation. It's just such a strong motor if you understand it. You need to understand the cylinder head. You need to understand the way air flows, because you've got 3 short intake ports and 3 long intake ports. You've got 3 short exhaust ports and 3 long exhaust ports. You have to understand what that does to air fuel ratios, to intake air temperatures. You have to look at per cylinder fuel trimming, per cylinder EGTs. You can't just fuel outright on that, especially at high horsepower. You will melt one of the rear pistons on that motor. A lot of people think the VR6 engine is a bad engine because it keeps on melting the rear pistons when they get turbocharged. That's not the engine's fault, that's the tuner's fault. He doesn't understand the engine. So that's going to be a really nice build. Just off the top of my head, I'm doing a full variable valve delete on that setup. I'm running a set of custom cat cams. The profiles for those cams, unfortunately, I will not divulge. I do have them, but I paid a lot of money for the cams, and the person that supplied me the cams asked me to keep the cam profiles for myself, to protect his business. They spent many hours on the engine dynos and on the dyno perfecting this specific cam for the 1000 to 1300 horsepower range. It has the most beautiful torque curve I have ever seen. It's just a phenomenal motor, beautiful flat torque curve at the top. It makes power all the way to 8,500 RPM. It gets a 2.8 VR6 crank that de-strokes it, makes it an R30. I've got some con rods from, I believe, Don Octane. Got quite a few things from Don Octane. Got a few things from Turbo Impression. Got a few things from Gravituned. I'll put in a couple of pictures here of some of the parts that I already have for this motor. I basically have everything. I've got the cams, I've got the internal verniers, I've got the valve kit, the valve springs, the retainers, I've got the pistons, the rods, the crank. I've got a beautiful CNC machine billet oil filter adapter that throws away the standard air to oil cooler on that motor. So that motor is going to be a whole series on its own. I'm really looking forward to it. That engine is probably going to go into a Audi TT Mark II or a Golf 5 R32. I haven't really made up my mind yet. My biggest problem at the moment is I don't really have a workspace to build the car, but I do have space to build the engine now. I'm very limited on workspace where I live at the moment. It's actually really frustrating. Another long-term project would be, and this is going to be a big one, I want to build a very capable desktop. I say desktop because it's probably going to weigh in the region of 300 to 400 kilograms when I'm done with it. I'd say close to 1,000 pounds. Desktop CNC lathe. I have a design in my head. It's not going to be anything groundbreaking. It's got an X and a Y axis and a spindle. I have already a beautiful 8-position ATC turret tool changer that will go on there. I haven't decided yet really on electronics, what I want to do with it. I want all 3 of my machines to run eventually on the same drivers, same electronic controllers. That's either going to be Centroid Acorn, because on the lathe I can do 4-axis. I can do live tooling with the new Centroid Acorn, and that really tickles me because I would love to be able to do mold-turn work, and I'll get to why just now. And then I would want all 3 of my machines to be either on Centroid Acorn, or the other one that really caught my attention is the Masso G3 Touch, which I really love. I love what it looks like and all the outputs of the controller and everything it can do. It, however, cannot do a fourth axis on the lathe, live tooling, as far as I understand. I've spoken to Masso, I've sent some emails, got some replies, really helpful. But I do believe if I wanted to make a fourth axis work, I would need to switch the controller between lathe mode and mill mode, and it would just frustrate me endlessly. Centroid, however, there's some guys, and I just want to say this, there's some guys out there on their YouTube channels that are doing phenomenal work. I've learned so much from everyone. I'm absolutely addicted to machining YouTube channels. I watch Cutting Edge Engineering, Australia, A-Bomb, This Old Tony, Blondie Hacks, Avi, all of them. I just love machining. Chris Marge, I love that big, large jobs that he does on that CNC machine of his. He's just a master at running that CNC lathe of his. I love the technology that Titans of CNC is putting out. It's phenomenal to watch their little short clips of everything they're doing, especially like the high level metal 3D printing and the EDM wire cutting and everything. It's just, I love that type of stuff. So yes, this is my little space. I don't profess to be good at anything. This is a learning experience for me. I think I've got enough. Over the last 2 years, I've tried slowly but surely to gather enough tools and enough equipment to the point where I think I'm ready to really start getting into this and doing some nice projects and inviting people along to learn with me, to help me, to guide me, to give me good comments. This is really going to be a learning curve for me. I'll post some of the pictures of the stuff that I used to fabricate in the automotive game. I've done 12 valve turbos, 6, 7, 800 horsepower up setups, really nice. I love those. There's a very good guy in South Africa that was gracious enough to let me build him a VR6 twin turbo the way I would want it for myself. And I really enjoyed that project. It came out beautifully. A couple of R36 turbos like the Passat R36, big power R36 stuff, intake manifolds, turbo manifolds, exhaust systems, that type of work that I did on those setups. Quite a few Lexus turbo, Lexus 1UZ, Toyota 1UZ V8 stuff, single turbos, twin turbos. I've done a lot of development work on those. I came up with a recipe that I kind of figured out for myself. I think it's one of the Mercedes ADE diesel head studs is a perfect fitment on that engine if you want to upgrade to a bigger head stud or bigger head bolt with a little bit of machining on the cylinder head. There we go. I've got another one. With a little bit of machining on the cylinder head, you can get significant improvements on clamping torque on those motors. Nissan VK45s in South Africa, we never got the VK45 as a production engine, I believe. It was mostly from over the pond, Infinities. A lot of Nissan, or I call them Nissan Infinities because it's a Nissan, had the VQ45, VQ56 motors in them. We've done a lot of work on those. On standard internals, they will actually make serious power if you decompress that motor. So we do a CNC decompress on the cylinder heads, we do a CNC pocketing of the cylinder head and the pistons to decompress it, and you can reassemble the whole engine with all standard internals and it will make serious power. Then what else is there? 1.8T turbo stuff like the Audi TT 1.8Ts, Golf 4 GTIs, a lot of work on those I've done. Intake manifolds, turbo manifolds, Mark 5, Mark 6 GTI stuff. Manifolds on those are difficult. In South Africa, the 1.9 TDI Volkswagens are extremely popular. The guys modify the life out of those little engines and they make serious power. What I used to do with those is cut the original turbine housing off of the manifold. It's a cast single piece. And then I weld BMW 330 diesel turbos directly onto those manifolds, and those guys make 4, 5, 600 horsepower on 1.9 TDI Volkswagens with that setup and a bit of nitros. yeah, I've done some interesting stuff for a very good friend of mine. I did a Mad Max style blower setup that sticks up through the bonnet of the car on a intake manifold that I built just for that car with an internal charge cooler on the inside. That was a really nice project. I did a big project that almost killed me. I actually don't even want to talk about that project. It almost ruined my life. But it was hardcore. It was a Toyota minivan with a Toyota V12. Yes, Toyota makes a V12. Go look at it. Mid-mounted twin turboed inside this Toyota minivan with a TCR Street Fighter Turbo 400 gearbox, with a late model Ford Mustang rear diff in there, four-link suspension. Yeah, that project actually is a part of my life that I just want to forget. But yeah, so automotive fabrication is my history, and now I really want to get into the CNC machining. The big purpose of converting this to CNC, upgrading the desktop to a more decent setup, and building a really capable desktop CNC lathe with fourth axis capability is, my long-term goal is I want to produce beautiful, high-level CNC machined chess sets. I love chess. I'm not particularly good at chess, but just the symbol, the thought idea, what chess to me represents, the thinking game, is beautiful. And I've always loved it when I walk into someone's house and they have a beautiful large chess set on display. So that's the long-term goal for me. 10 years down the line, I want to build chess sets and make money out of it. I want to do it to see if I can make decent enough money and maybe turn it into a retirement job to keep me busy, to make money on the sideline, and to still do machining and everything that comes along. I do a lot of 3D printing. I've got a very good friend in South Africa, Clinton Hully. I'll put some of his details in here. He is just phenomenal at CAD and CAM drawings and designing things. He has an amazing background in the performance industry on racing boats, especially on the Nissan VK45 Whipple supercharged stuff. I did a Toyota Hilux with a Nissan VK45 with a Whipple charger on. It was a really nice project. Kept destroying the gearbox. Even the D4D Toyota boxes, the diesel boxes that are really strong, took some punishment on that setup. So he designs a lot of things for me. Then I 3D print the parts. And once I'm happy with the design in hand, especially engine parts, then I give him the go-ahead and they CNC machine the parts for me, and most of these parts are for the R30 engine build. And I'll put up some pictures of what that looks like. And then another hobby for me is RC cars. I love RC cars. I used to have a lot of them. I recently got rid of quite a few because it just becomes, it's one of those hobbies that just sucks you in, and you can never have too many RC cars. You always just want another one. So I got rid of quite a few. I've got a Losi DBXLE 2.0 left. I've got an E-Revo 2.0 left. I've got a Armour Limitless, and then I've got a beautiful little 10th scale full carbon fiber car that I'm building now. It's going to get a Ford GT40 Mark II shell. It's going to be awesome. The goal for this 10th scale and the Armour Limitless is to both run 300 km an hour plus. That's the goal. So I'll be doing quite a few build and project videos on the RC cars, upgrading them and getting them to 300 km an hour. I'm doing a lot of upgrades on the Losi, on the DBXLE 2.0. The E-Revo 2.0 is highly modified. Because of my experience in the automotive game and performance tuning, I cannot leave RC cars alone. It's just a disease, and all the petrol heads out there in the community will know exactly what it feels like to not have the ability to leave things stock. If it's in your blood, it's in your blood. So that's me. If any of these things interest you, please subscribe, follow along. This is a brand new channel, first ever video, and I really hope that this picks up and it's something that I can put more time into. Ultimately, I'd like to produce maybe a video a week. I do, however, have a full-time job that is very demanding. I'm not going to go into too much detail about what that is because of sensitivity reasons and intellectual property and everything that goes along with that, plus the country that I live in. But yeah, that's me. Welcome to my very little workshop, and please follow me along on this journey. Thank you.